Meeples and Monsters, that's right. This is the new AEG Kickstarter release going up March 2nd. I happen to get a preview copy and I'm excited to share with you what this game offers and why this might just be the perfect fit for your game group and your game night. In this game, you are going to build bags with meeples. So that's one thing, is you're going to be collecting and drafting meeples of different types. Generally, they're represented by the color, but they also have really great design on the front of each of these meeples, with the exception of the corruption. These are the gray meeples, and as I'll explain a little bit later, they have a different function in the game. So there's all these meeples that you're going to be drafting and putting in your bag. You're going to be fighting monsters. All the monsters show up here on these flanks, and then of course you've got the end monsters. Now you're not allowed to fight those until you trigger your third Dark Council card, as you stack the deck of all these monsters with these Dark Council cards to kind of trigger the game, to kind of bump you up a little bit. You get to draw more meeples when that happens, and of course you get harder and harder monsters to fight as they level up as well. You also get to build buildings in this area in the center. The buildings you build are going to be different every time because you're not going to go through the whole stack of buildings here, because there are only, for rent, 8 spaces on the board in addition to the basic 4 that are built in right here. So you're going to build buildings. You're going to fight monsters. You're going to build your meeples in your bag. You're going to level up your heroes because you have all access to your mage, cleric, knight, warrior, and peasant. Peasant doesn't necessarily get leveled up. But you have these cards, and they're going to take you to level 1 to level 2 and level 3. And so each hero actually has a front back. And you can also acquire these 3 specialty, the purple, gold, and green. So it's the paladin, the shaman, and the ranger. And so you can also get those heroes as well. You are going to fulfill quests in addition to all of that. And if you want to, later on after you've played a time or two, you can add the castle expansion. I'm not going to show that to you this time, and we're not going to play with it, but it's definitely part of that deluxe game that's going up on Kickstarter. So now that you know what some of your goals are in this game, here's how an actual turn looks. Now in the beginning it's kind of basic because everybody has 3 corruption in their bag, which are the grays, and you have 7 of the whites, which are peasants, and they're just basic, right? This is the town that you are trying to bring all these heroes and all of these fighters to, so that they can protect the town from all of these monsters that are invading. So you take the 7 and the 3 and you put them in your bag, and that's going to be your starting draw. So you don't actually get any of the cool people just yet, but you want to build them in, and you want to start building the buildings and maybe start fighting some of these monsters because they might actually give you really cool benefits. So every player is going to take their bag, and they're going to draw 4. All right. Wow. So I drew 3 peasants and 1 corruption. Now, on your first turn, you're going to look at the board, and the first choice you have is to build. So you can choose to spend 2 white peasants, and you will just go there, and you will get to build. Or you can send 1 peasant, and you get to build, but you also get another peasant. Now you say, one I spend more and get the same action, and the other I spend less and get stuff back in return. Well, here's the deal. While peasants are workers, they can actually go places and do things, they'll start to clog up your deck or your bag, much like the corruption do at a certain point. And so there's a fine balance of figuring out, well, do I want more white workers to just go around and do stuff? I only get to draw 4 my turn every single time I play, so maybe I don't want as many white, maybe I do in the beginning. It's completely up to you. Let's say I just go and build there. Notice there's an or. So I go and I build. I look at all of these tiles that are on the side, and I just get to put one down onto one of these for rent locations. Now, what you cover up, you get. So in the beginning of the game, it's kind of beneficial to build early on to get these tiles out as future actions, but also to get the stuff that's underneath it. So if I do this, I go there and I do that, I'm going to build this healer's temple. This purple may not come into play right away, but it introduces the paladin into the game, which is another kind of hero you can get. Notice that you've got 3 purples that come with it. You're going to put those on this tile, and once 3 paladins have been bought, you don't get to buy a paladin anymore. So what I'll do with this tile is I will place it over the for rent, and I will get a white and a blue because theoretically I want to go there and get this healer's temple. So I'll take a white and a blue from the pool on the side. This is just our market area. This is just where the goods are. And I put them in my lodgings. I will now take back the builds and I'll put those in my lodgings. They've been used. Now I still have 2 of my peasants and the corruption that just kind of sits there. Now the gray, as I said, function a little differently because they are corruption. These don't help you really unless you get super cool cards or upgrades that allow you to count corruption and do other things with them, like draw from your bag or do certain things counting up for strength later on. So in the very beginning of the game though, these grays are just clogging your bag. You also, when you draw a Dark Council card, you add a gray to everyone's bag. So you also get a little bit more corruption every time you kind of move up in the game. There's a place to level up your heroes. I don't have any of those heroes yet. I just got my very first colored one, which is the blue one. That's my warrior. So I can't level them up just yet, and I also don't have any experience, which is how you level up. Some of these actually cost 0 to go from level 1 to 2. That's really cool because it's actually the blue one. So I might actually level him up next time. So with my remaining 2, I can go to the cathedral, and it says I pay any. If you see a beige with the question mark, you can put any meeple there. And then I lose one, and then I get a red one. That's really cool. The problem is that this area is overrun. Now, you just deal out 6 cards in the beginning of the game from the monster deck and place them into their areas. And once you get 2 or 3 monsters in a particular area, this is the red area, then you'll see this little white meeple symbol. It says you get one. So these villagers are coming to assist you to help fight off the monsters. And again, the more of these white meeples you get, it clogs up your deck, and all of a sudden you're just drawing whites because you have 4 that you get to draw. Again, in the first phase until you get to Dark Council, you only draw 4, and at that point you go up to drawing 5 after this first time the card is drawn. So this may not be good for me to go to the cathedral. Sure, I get to lose a white, but then I gain him right back. So I'll think about it. Here, I can send 3 workers. Well, you'd think I have 3, but I don't. This corruption doesn't count. You can't use them as a worker. They can't be a beige question mark. So I can't go to the villages just yet to trade out and get a blue. I don't have a blue and a white to go and get one of my knights, the black meeple. And here at the university, I can only place 1 there. And again, this is overrun. So I'm going to get a white meeple to add to this just to get a yellow, and I have 1 left over. So what I think I might do is go here to the cathedral. I'm going to lose this guy to gain a red, but I'm overrun. So I gain 1 of these back. Now my turn. I put all my people in my lodgings. I scoot my corruption over. That was my turn. Everyone else is going to take their turn, one after the other, going through the entire round. You get to choose to build. You don't have to. At the same time, you are going to do your leveling up. And then after that, you can come out and go to these action spaces and fight. Now, I didn't necessarily feel like I was strong enough to fight just yet. If I look at these monsters, they need 3 or 2. Now, I could have fought one of these skeletons for 2, and then I would have been able to draw quest cards. Now, that's actually really good. In this case, it says draw 2 and discard 1. So when you look at your quest cards, it gives you an option of 3 different styles of play. Now, they function differently because they activate at different times. So the flag is a game end condition. You just make sure that you have that met at the end of the game and you get the victory points in the purple. A lightning bolt is just, did you do this thing right away? And then you're going to get the victory points in the purple. Now, the hourglass is interesting because it gives fewer victory points when you meet a condition, but it gives you an ongoing ability. So if you ever activate what it says in the bottom gray area, you get to use that benefit, that bonus. And sometimes you're going to have monsters that give you those as well. So make sure that you keep track of all of those ongoing benefits and bonuses that you get because you complete quests or because you defeat monsters. Now that my turn is done and I push these guys over, I'm going to check to see if I need to refill any of the monsters. Oops, put those guys there. Check to see if I need to replenish the buildings. I do. And then I draw 4 meeples from my bag and I put them in my tavern. All right, so this next turn I've got 2 of my remaining corruption and then 2 of those peasants. Now it will go to the next player, the next player, the next player. So what you'll see is that all of your meeples are in your tavern and you're already planning your turn. You're already trying to figure out, what am I doing? Where can I go? Who can I fight? Can I build a building? Can I level up any of my monsters? And so you're kind of turning, your wheels are turning as everybody else is doing their turn, so that when it comes to you, you know exactly what you want to do. So it comes back to me, and let's say that I want to send my 2 workers here out to fight. So let's say I want to send it to this skeleton. I don't want to build anything because I don't have enough workers to fight if I build. Remember that these gray corruption can't do anything for you right now. I put 2 on there, so I killed it. I take those and put them in my lodgings, and then I will put this card in my area. It matters for a couple reasons. There is a type. So each monster has a hand, slashy marks, or a skull. And that's going to count for quest cards that might say things like, be the person who kills the most slashy marks, or only kill skulls and hand monsters. So pay attention to that symbol for that very reason. I'm going to get 1 point on my experience. So I'll go up, I'll move up on my experience track, and then I'll take 2 quest cards and I will discard 1. And that means I can add 2 to my hand and discard any of them, not just of the 2 that I drew, which is very, very versatile. I like that. So once I take a look at these guys, then I take the one I don't want, I stick it back underneath the bottom. Now, that was pretty much my turn. I move over my corruption, I look around, and I notice that there aren't 6 monsters. So I'm going to draw from the deck, and I'm going to replace, it looks like it goes in black. So now I'm going to put that over here. So now yellow and black are overrun, which means if you take that action in this area without going after a monster, you're going to have that extra white. Now, one way to mitigate that is by fighting and going to a location, but in the very beginning of the game, you're kind of weak and it's hard to spread your meeples out because you just keep running into corruption and you only draw 4 anyway. So you've got to build up and you've got to really work on getting those colors. I draw my up, I have 2 meeples. Now, I have to draw until I get 4, but there's nothing left in my bag. So I take everybody that's in my lodgings and I stuff them in my bag, shake it up, and I draw 2 more. Corruption! Oh man! Maybe my next turn I'll get that red and blue. So now turn order is going to pass because you draw up at the end of your turn. And I'm thinking about what I can do with these 4. I've got 2 peasants and 2 corruption, much like my last turn. As long as players know what they're doing and what they want to do on their turn, play can go pretty quickly because once people have built all the buildings in these 8 spaces, that building doesn't matter anymore because you've already built all the places for rent. Now, the other thing is leveling up and making sure you remember that you can make your red, blue, yellow, and black heroes really cool with your leveled up, but it also costs experience that you get when you fight monsters. So you kind of have to fight some monsters when you're weak just to get a couple experience points so that you can get really cool fighters and really cool heroes that do awesome stuff. I would recommend making sure that you don't neglect quests, because in my first game I got a lot of quests and that was huge. It really kind of bowled over my opponent. Now, the second time I played, we all were kind of quest poor. We had a hard time getting the cards to then play during a turn because of some sort of accomplishment of playing a certain combination of meeples that gives you not just victory points, but maybe ongoing abilities. So don't neglect the quests and doing those when you can and working toward them, which I think is a great hidden objective for every player. The other thing is there's a balance of how high do you level up your heroes and get the benefit from them in enough time, because ultimately your experience, that level, that track, is your victory points. So you are essentially paying victory points to level up heroes that give you better bang for your buck when you play them, when you draw them from your bag and get to do something with them. But if you do it too late in the game, you're losing points that might actually matter when it gets down to counting up victory points and seeing who wins the game. Another thing is just be aware of the buildings that you've built over the game period. So while I may not build all these buildings and get the bonus underneath, I can still go to any building that I want on my turn, and I can utilize that particular ability for, in this case, strength. The little red explosion symbol is strength that you have when you fight with particular meeples. Or also versatility and victory point scoring. So don't forget about those opportunities out here that might help you fight monsters, or that might help you defeat these dark overlords over here, the henchmen. Because at the end of the game, when that card shows up, that third one, everyone's going to have 2 more turns to fight with whoever they draw out of their bag for that last 2 rounds, and you hope you better fight these guys because they give you better victory points than what's available on the board. And so it's a fun balance of culling your deck, or in this case your meeple bag, so culling out those peasants, using the corruption when you get the opportunity to, which I promise you there are opportunities to use them to your advantage, even though you can't place them as active meeples. But there's so much balance here in your strategy and figuring out when you should bulk up, when you should, hedge your bets with certain things, when you should be fighting particular monsters because you have quests that kind of give you that goal and that objective, which I like a lot. And then figuring out which of these heroes you actually want to play with and emphasize, and again, level up to where you really get a great benefit with them. So for example, you have the cleric gets to use corruption, which are these gray meeples. If you level him up to a level 2, when you look at your tavern after you've drawn your meeples, if you have any reds in your area and 1 or more of these corruption that you drew in addition to the red, you get to draw another meeple from the bag. So in that case, corruption was really good. So each of these are going to give you benefits with fighting monsters, with versatility, with earning more victory points, with making the best of the corruption that show up in your tavern when you draw from the bag. Now, there are a couple things that I just want to let you know about, because when I played through several times, I realized, yeah, this might not necessarily work for everyone. The first thing is, it says on the box that it takes 45 to 60 minutes to play. I think that it takes at least twice as long. Set up a side, which takes some time. This game is going to take you a couple hours. So don't think that you're going to play this in 45 minutes. So if you want to spend time and you have time, great, don't worry about it. I just want you to know that there is some time in this game, that it doesn't necessarily say on the box. Another thing is that if players don't know what they're doing on their turn and they take a long time to make decisions, the gameplay as it goes around the table can slow down. And I think that might kind of add to the time that I was talking about. I think it's natural in the very beginning of a game, once you're learning it, to kind of be unsure of your choices and what you should do. Just go for it, honestly. You play through the first game. My house rule is first games don't count, just have fun. I think aside from the time commitment, this game has what you want in a fun monster killing game. So if you like the idea of designing your own meeple bag with different kinds of fighters and heroes, this is your game. I mean, it really has the flair and the fun and the excitement. You have to make a lot of choices on your turn, so there's definitely a strategy. This isn't a super light game. Now, it doesn't mean that all your choices are going to be tough and hard and you don't know what to do. You might be picking between 2 things or maybe among 3 things, but you still have choice. And you still might say, well, I'd rather go for this monster because it gives me this ability versus this one over here that only gives me a meeple, right? Or I want to build a building because I want this building at some point and I want to put it over a red because I need to get a red because I can't go here and lose 2 people because I need to keep my villagers for some reason. There's just a lot of choice and fun here. So make sure that you're thinking on other people's turn. Have a great time. Just loving the artwork and the detail and loving these meeples because they're really, really cool. And then don't forget about the quest benefits and the monster benefits that you get once you have accomplished those things. Like once you've actually accomplished a quest and you have defeated a monster and it gives you an ongoing ability, don't forget that you have those, because I think that was the biggest mistake we kept making, was you forget, oh no, my yellows are worth 1 more when they fight with peasants, or you know, my black gives a bonus to anyone who fights with him or something like that. Now I think the replayability is definitely here, and I also think that the castle expansion adds a little bit to the game that makes it more complex and more interesting upon further and further plays. So if my description definitely hits the spot for your gaming group, then Meeples and Monsters is for you. The thing that I like the most about this game is the meeple drafting. I think that is just so exciting. I love reaching in bags and drawing out meeples. What did I get? I got my red one. See, it's just like so exciting. And so when you put in meeples and you build up this troop, this army, this group of allies, and then you draw them and start to see how your strategy is going to play out for each turn, that's exciting. So I like that aspect of the game, and I hope you like it too. So let me know in the comments below if you're excited about this campaign and if Meeples and Monsters sounds like it fits your group.